This is Deborah Baker with Trusted CISO, and this is the Cyber Savvy podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about the Snowflake Hack, which also brings to mind the importance of your third-party vendor risk management. So let's get started. Hundreds of Snowflake customer passwords were found online, and they're linked to info-stealing malware, and this was from TechCrunch. Last week, Australian authorities sounded the alarm, saying they had become aware of successful compromises of several companies utilizing Snowflake environments. The hacking group Shiny Hunters claims it breached Ticketmaster and stole data for 560 million customers, and this was per CBS News. Now you may be wondering, what in the world does this Ticketmaster hack have to do with Snowflake? So far, Snowflake has said they have not been breached. They have brought in both CrowdStrike and Mandiant to do, a deep dive into what exactly is going on and, why all of these thousands of user accounts and passwords are on the dark web. Well, what's been found is that 165 of Snowflake's customers have been breached, and the reason is they were not using multi-factor authentication. We're going to get into the Ticketmaster hack also. So Ticketmaster reported to the SEC on Friday, May 31st, that they had suffered a data breach. What they said is on May 20th, they noticed unauthorized activity to a database, and on May 27th, hackers offered to sell Ticketmaster customer data on the dark web for $500,000. And the hacking group Shiny Hunters has claimed responsibility, and this was per Time magazine. Now, what's happened is Snowflake came out and said, we weren't hacked. It's not, Snowflake, we've got low risk, we're secure, we weren't actually hacked. And they said that they didn't have anything to do with the Ticketmaster hack. Now, Live Nation, in a separate announcement to the press, and this was to TechCrunch, they confirmed its Ticketmaster subsidiary customer database that was breached was hosted in Snowflake. So it's like, okay, wait a second. There is something going on with Snowflake. Now, what's happened so far with the research that Snowflake has done, and with the help of Mandiant and CrowdStrike, is they're aware of the hacked user accounts and that these passwords were dumped on the dark web. What they said is all of these customer accounts that were breached were not using multi-factor authentication. So it's critical that you use multi-factor authentication. And what you can do is download Google Authenticator or Microsoft Authenticator onto your phone and start using it with your emails, with your bank accounts, with everything that is important to you. So your social media accounts. So Snowflake and Mandiant have notified up to 165 Snowflake customers of their accounts being hacked. I had also done some research recently on SaaS terms, and it's pretty typical that it says that the user ID and password is the responsibility of the customer. And then if your account is hacked, so like if the password is hacked by, hackers, it's cracked, that is the customer's responsibility and not the SaaS company. So I went and I read Snowflake's terms, and they talk a little bit about it, but it does say that these credentials will be solely managed by the customer. So they're putting it back on the customer. So when Snowflake says it's not their problem, it's not their fault, they weren't breached, this is the reason why. And so this goes back to the cloud shared responsibility model. And that is, the customer is always responsible for securing their own data. 99% of the time, if there's some sort of a breach, it's not typically, it's not AWS, it's not Azure, and not the SaaS service. It's usually something that some sort of configuration that was on the customer side. It's not always the case, but I would say more often than not, it's a misconfiguration on the customer side. And then for SaaS services, it's it's not AWS, 99% of the time, or Azure. It's going to be something that the developer, like for the SaaS product, where they made a misconfiguration. Now, it's very important, and I talk about this in chapter 2 of my new book, CISO Guide to Cyber Resilience, which I highly recommend that you buy a copy. But I talk about the fact that you have to use multi-factor authentication. And so here's a nice quote: almost every phishing attack that we've seen could have been prevented with multi-factor authentication. And that's Roy Sanchez, CEO of True Digital Security. MFA can block over 99.9% of account compromise attacks, per Microsoft Security, Melanie Maines. And what multi-factor authentication is it's in addition to your username or user ID and password. So you have a PIN code, it's something something you have. So it could be a smart card, mobile device, token, passkey, and something you are, your fingerprint, iris scan, facial recognition. So having multiple forms of authentication is going to make your account more secure, because if your password is cracked, then they still won't be able to gain access unless they have one of these other factors. So what you need to be using is at least a 14-character password, unique passwords for each and every website, a password manager, and most of them have free access so you can use Bitwarden, you can use LastPass or 1Password, and you can use passkeys. And if you use a passkey, store it in your password manager. So it's not just that where somebody actually got access to your device and then it was just already accessible, for example, like in your Apple keychain. So you want to have that separate password manager with a separate login. And in this slide, I also talk about, if you're looking at the video, I talk about that if you want to go up another level, you can have context awareness. So for example, like with Okta, it's an add-on, but it would know if you're logging into your account from, let's say, Florida, and then an hour later you log in from Italy, it's going to flag that, because there's no way you can go from Florida to Italy in 1 hour. So that's, more controls you can put over your authentication. And then you can also do device authentication. So we actually have your devices that are authenticating, and that's getting more into the zero trust. Thank you so much for listening for this breakdown of the Snowflake hack and multi-factor authentication. Make sure that you pick up a copy of my book, CISO Guide to Cyber Resilience. It's not just for CISOs. It's for anyone that wants to learn how to secure their own online accounts and identity, and also secure your organization. Thanks for listening.